Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's a pleasure to come and meet you. So I think when we start our chat, we should start at the beginning.
Okay.
So I would like to know what inspired the establishment of ANC. What's the history?
The history was actually started in when I was studying in the US, and I wanted to come back to Sri Lanka.
This was when you were an undergraduate student?
When I was just finishing medical school, so I'm a medical doctor by profession. So I was not very much for continuing with my medical studies or coming here to continue my medical studies. And I had to figure out something to do. And obviously, since I spent so much time studying in many universities and for a duration of maybe 7 or 8 years, I felt that I had a very big, long experience about how to be an international student and how to be successful in the US. So with this in mind, the biggest factor that I also came across was the fact, the adaptation, as well as getting used to the education system, and also the financial component that my parents had to fork out. And I thought, there has to be a way to educate Sri Lankan youth in an affordable manner, make them more prepared, because when I went to the US, I was not prepared. A-levels did not prepare me.
Where did you do your
I was at Stanford International School before that. So the thing is that I felt that while the A-levels was a very strong exam, there were many other aspects that was lacking. Career counseling was minimal at that time. Either you became a doctor, an engineer, lawyer, accountant, and that was kind of the advice that was given. The A-level streams were divided into those 4 major areas. I think even currently the system remains the same even after maybe 20 years since I finished high school. So I wanted to start ANC to make education affordable and for students to realize their dreams, to give them options to transfer to many different universities, and also to study many different areas, especially areas that they really like and they can succeed in. Because I always tell my students that if you are really good at what you do and you like what you do, means when you wake up in the morning, you're happy to come to work, you're going to be really, really good at what it is, and that's going to make you very successful. It's going to give you a lot of self-gratification.
Is that your personal belief as well? That
Oh yes,
got you going?
absolutely. I think that getting a degree is just today a given. So you have to be very special to really climb to the top. And to be special, you have to be very passionate about what you're doing. Gone are the days that, if a student had a degree, they would get a job, and if they have a degree from the right school, they would climb to the top of the corporate ladder. I think if you look at who is in the corporate ladder, I'm sure you've interviewed many of these people. They're not the traditional people who have gone through academia and come right to the top in academia with credentials. They do have an education background for sure, but they are very passionate and they're very committed to the areas that they are working in, and I think that's where their success is.
Passion and commitment.
Yeah.
Alright. So every week we pretty much see advertisements of ANC affiliations to new universities, new ventures. How many universities are you currently affiliated to?
Well, there's 2 types of affiliations. One is where we deliver the academic program in our campus. We have 4 such affiliations, namely Monash is the most recognizable affiliation. It's the only top 100 world-ranked university operating or university program operating through Monash College, Sri Lanka, as you might know. I think about 2 weeks ago there was an article, probably in your newspaper, that SP said that our local universities are ranked in the top 1,000 in South Asia and in the top 3,000 in the whole world. So to have a top 100 program running in Sri Lanka is, I think, a prestigious thing for not only ANC but also for Sri Lanka. That's the main one. We also have North University, which is a highly specialized business university from the US. We have University of West London, which is the #1 modern university ranked in London according to the Guardian newspaper, where we do our postgraduate programs from. Then we have John F. Kennedy University out of California, which is providing our psychology and our general education programs. So those are the 4 major universities. These are all recognized international universities according to the Sri Lanka University Grants Commission, because they are in the international leaderbook of universities or in the Commonwealth University of so they are all recognized universities. So their qualifications are globally recognized, not only Sri Lanka, not only in America, not only in the UK, not only in Australia. They're globally recognized universities. So when a student gets a qualification from these universities, they can work anywhere in the world. In terms of affiliations, maybe 300. You name it. Just alone in the US, we have maybe 100 universities we are affiliated. So I think this is the big difference. A lot of people don't understand the difference between an affiliation and actually delivering an academic program. So 4 academic programs we deliver here, and affiliation maybe 300, 400 at least.
In operating all these foreign degrees, the ones which you locally do, how do you maintain quality assurance at a local?
At a local level, it's very simple. Everything is about benchmarking, and we have our own internal quality assurance process. So it's like a company. Company has an internal audit and an external audit. Usually, external audit is done by, say, KPMG in our company's case, or EY or whatever. And we have an internal audit process as well. So, same process that we adapt to our academic standards. We have an internal academic audit that takes place every semester. This internal audit brings directly to me and the board what is happening, what is not happening, because it's a very structured process. We also are ISO 9000, the latest ISO. That's as another way of auditing, but that's mainly overall, not only academic. But every 3 years, we have an academic audit from our partner institutions. And that's a part
every 3 years.
Every 3 years. Usually academic audits are every 3 years, unless there's something wrong where it happens every year. So if an audit is not going well, then there's another audit in a year. But in our case, we've been doing this for now 12 years. And every 3 years, we get audited from the Australian universities, from the UK universities, and from the American universities. So the beauty is that these universities are maintaining their own country's accreditation standards, because whatever they're delivering here. So we are the only institution that actually gets audited from all 3 major educational accrediting bodies. And what I have done with our local accrediting or our internal accrediting, I've adapted all of these 3 accrediting bodies' requirements and brought it into one standard. So we're actually thinking, because most of the accrediting standards are similar, some slightly different. Not greatly, slightly. For example, the British are very fixed on documentation and it's a very rigid type of system. Whereas the Americans are more fixed on student outcomes and what happens to the student after graduation and whether they had learned certain learning skills, not only the examination skills. Learning skills and student outcome is very, very much a focus of their audit. And also student satisfaction. In other words, is the student satisfied with the faculty and was the experience that the student had in the classroom a very good one. And Australia is a blended of both of these. So that's what I'm trying to explain. The UK one is probably a lot of paperwork. It's very detailed. It's like you do this. It's like a checklist. And if you did it, and it's very thorough. The American one is more flexible. It's more about talking to the students. So they'll come and talk to all the they'll go into a class and out of a class of 50, they'll pick 10 students and talk. How was this? It's very, random,
Right.
and then the Australian one is a mix of both. So I think that because of that, we have, over the years, having adapted to all these three systems, we have a very, very high standard. Okay.
And when we talk about foundation programs, the ANC has established its name as being one of the leaders in the industry. What are the advantages for a student to do a foundation versus a more conventional A-level program?
Okay, well, it's twofold. The foundation program allows the student to adapt to a university environment. In other words, the content, see, a lot of people say a foundation is a fast track or a shortcut. And it's very sad that some education institutions position it like that. For 8 months, you can get to university quickly or this or that. But actually a foundation year is not that. Foundation year is taking your A-level content and delivering it in a university environment. Now A-levels, if you look at it traditionally, it's you teach, then you go for tuition, then you take an exam. University is not, and after 2 years, right? University is not like that. You go to university, you have a semester. Semester is 4 months. In that semester, you will have assignments, group work, midterm exam, some pop quizzes, and then a final exam. All these components give you a certain amount of marks towards your final grade. Then you take that work and you go to your next semester. So you have to carry the knowledge, and your knowledge is tested at various levels. As I mentioned, assignments, group work, pop quizzes, finals, midterms, whatever, presentations, whatever. A-levels does not do that. We know it, doesn't it? Right? It's just an exam. That's it. None of those skills are tested. Now, the student goes to the university. Now, see, the student with A-levels lacks those skills. Now, I don't know about what other foundation years are doing, but the Monash University Foundation here does all of that. So when they go to university, when an A-level student is figuring out how to do a presentation, how to sit for an exam, because why? You start the semester, within 2 months you have an exam. Right? So our students, as you know, all of us, we have 90% of the students grant. That's our system, right? So the difference is that a foundation year is a reflection of university. The content you learn is A-level content. However, it's a reflection of university, and it's that adaptation that a lot of students fail. It's not that they don't have the brains. It's the adaptation from 12 years of 1 year exam, that kind of model to university. That's the adaptation. So foundation year gives you that.
How many subjects will the student have to take?
Well, they have to take 4 subjects plus English. Because let me tell you something. English is the main thing in any program, any degree. Whether you do business, whether you do engineering, whether you do medicine, whether you do law. If your English is bad, right? You can't write a paper. You can't read a paper. You can't research a paper. Right? So English is a huge, huge important subject. Right? I have people with master's degrees working for me. They can't write. Right? Because why? The last qualification in English was what? O-levels. And they can speak. Right? But they can't write. They can't put a presentation together. The real world, whatever the area is, medicine, you have to read so much, you have to write so much, you have to research so much, you have to reference so much. Your English is bad out. Can't get through medicine. This is can't. So everything is like that. Everything is now today content driven. There's so much content all over the world. Right? All this is going to go on. Right? So the point is that English is there in the foundation. So that's a huge component to succeed. A lot of Sri Lankan students, when they go abroad, they struggle with English, not with.
So what's the entry requirement in English to start a foundation program?
Okay. everyone goes with minimum entry requirement. I must tell you the minimum and what our cohort is. Our minimum entry requirement for a foundation year is 5 O-level credits, including math and English. However, in one city. However, 50% of our students have 5 A's. Okay. If you take it to 4 A's and 1 B, that percentage goes up to 70%. Okay. So actually the people who have only 5 C's is only 1%. So actually we are attracting the brightest students in the country. And maybe some schools might not like it. But you know, the product is a very, very superior product. Now, it's not that ANC has developed this foundation. Monash has this foundation. It's a Monash program. What does that tell you? That means in Australia also there is high school, there's Australian whatever. Now, a lot of major universities, Warwick has developed a foundation here, Imperial, University of Sydney has developed. Why are these people developing foundation years of their own? Why? You must ask that question. The reason is because they feel certain high school qualifications, let it be A-levels or IE or whatever, are not giving this adaptation of what you have to expect when you come to university.
So out of personal interest, do you think that eventually the foundation will replace the A-levels?
I don't think so. Because A-levels is Goliath and it's that famous battle, and I don't think it's a replacement, it's an alternative. And you must ask yourself, what is a better alternative? That's a personal question for a lot of people. Unfortunately though, I'm against the way it is marketed. If you look at the papers, they're saying fast track, quick, easy. No. And this is what we tell our students. No, it's a lot of work. Right? But sometimes you must understand that theory alone is not going to make you successful, right? We all know that. You know, as I mentioned, that you need to be able to adapt, you have to be able to apply, you have to be able to write about it, you have to be able to present it, you have to be able to, so many things. Right? So that's what a foundation adds to you, as opposed to A-levels where you come and sit an exam on one day and your whole life depends on that 3 hours of that paper. What if you had a bad day for that 3 hours? See, the foundation here does not allow that, because you have all these exams, quizzes, this, that, and it's dragged on. So maybe you have one bad day, but you can't have 10 bad sessions, right? And say if you're trying to get into medical school, you miss one exam or one half of an exam, you're done. If you don't get, So that's where the foundation, I believe is a very good option. I'm not saying A-levels is not. It's a great exam. It tests a lot of knowledge in one element. And I think that's why the British exams are adapting. They're doing the S-levels, they're combining the scores, so they're slowly adapting to this. So it shows that there's an adaptation of A-levels, especially the British A-levels, to this system. The local A-levels are not going to adapt, because I believe the local A-levels is a different type of an animal, because only 3% get into university. So it's actually to weed out the best, right? So that is testing students for something else, in my opinion. But I think with these other options coming in, I think nothing is replaceable. It's just that there's room for options.
What's your basic recruitment for lecturers to all your programs? Does it differ from program to program, or is it uniform programs? How does it work?
We want to hire the best lecturers, and everyone says that. Okay, but I'm going to tell you something. Lecturers cost a lot of money. In fact, they cost anywhere between 200,000 to 400 to 500,000 a month. Okay, so I'm sure everyone, if you interview any of the CEOs, they'll come and tell you, or derivation center or deans or whatever, they say, we want the best lecturers. We have the best lecturers. But if you look at their price of the delivery of their program, there's a mismatch of
Good things not cheap.
no chance. Right? So we are very proud because we are very keen to be academically very, very strong. We are pushing that boundary a lot. We are hiring the best possible people. We are paying them a lot of money to move, from whatever they're doing. And we handpick them and we headhunt them like any other. It's a very strategic move from our side. And the faculty is the most valuable thing in this business. Right? I would say people are very valuable, but great faculty is the success of ANC. Please remember, we are twice as expensive as any other program in the country. Like, our nearest competitor probably would be acting. We're 70% more expensive than that, right? And still students come, right? And there's a reason for that because, and also like if you look at the Monash program we did the first year, our pass rates are the same as Monash Australia. There's no variation in our pass rates, right? So imagine we have a faculty in par in line with all of those standards, and we pay. They are in my executive team, they're part of our management team, and they're the best. But at the same time, anyone who's not good enough also we get rid of. So in other words, we have this system where if students rate a faculty poorly, once they get a warning, second one they are out. So it goes both ways. Again, coming back, it's not my rule, it's that quality assurance. The universities, the quality, the first question you asked, the student surveys decides who teaches and who does not, who has good grades and who does not. So if the student outcomes are not met, then that faculty cannot teach. So we are happy to see that a lot of faculty are coming in and they stay 2 years and then they move on. Because faculty is the most important thing in this whole,
So for an undergraduate program, what would be the academic credentials required for a lecturer?
Okay, it's very simple. Again, I'm going to go with minimum standard, but what we have. Usually for an undergraduate program, let's say if you are delivering a course in, say, economics, the minimum standard or the minimum standard of the faculty is that you have to have someone with a master's in economics with minimum 5 years teaching experience. Okay? So master's in economics with minimum 5 years. Right? But the norm, the standard that we maintain is that we have 65% PhD faculty ratio. So in other words, 65% of our faculty will have a PhD in economics, not the masters with 5 years. We do have 35% with masters with 5 years. And that doesn't necessarily take away from many faculty who has a master's. They're just really good, right? And they're the 5 years. Now, what the problem here in this country is that somebody with an MBA with 5 years experience will be teaching economics. Now, that's not the standard. And I am a strong advocate of this new accreditation, quality assurance measures that the government, that the UGC and the minister and Dr. Naval is trying to bring in. Because I'm a strong advocate. I am saying bring it, implement it. Because there are too many mushrooming institutions giving out degrees because it has become a business, right? And that is not good for higher education, right? And I think that is where the mistrust is between state and non-state, right? So I think there has to be, like every other industry, whether you take banking or insurance or whatever, there's a centralized body giving what the standard is, right? Whether it's a local bank or a private bank, right? So you have to have the same standard. I think that way a lot of people will be very happy. Right now, there are certain places that don't have this standard. So people are teaching with sometimes even a bachelor's, sometimes just out of a master's. but you've got to have a master's, 5 years experience in the related field you're teaching. So if you're teaching computer engineering, you can't just have an MSc in IT to teach computer engineering. You have an MSc in computer engineering in that particular subject. So it's very specific. However, since there is no monitoring taking place, it's unregulated, and a lot of people abuse that. And I think that is where there's a whole debate on this. It's not whether private, public. It's not that. It's the quality assurance. And I'm a strong advocate. We maintain all those standards and more. We have a 65% PhD faculty, and I'm always pushing for that. Because if that happens and that becomes law, 75% of these places will close down.
Sure. I agree with that. And how about extracurricular co-curricular activities for your students?
We have a staff of about 20 people who make up the Student Affairs Office. The Student Affairs Office is purely set up to look after every possible need, requirement of the students. So actually we have about 12 different clubs, right? We have about 5 or 6 different sports teams. And in fact, we give about 20 scholarships every year for national level sports people. Because that's our philosophy. So if you look at the girl who went to represent Sri Lanka for Olympics, ANC graduate or ANC student, most of the rugby players, because when they're playing rugby for nationals, starting from the previous Sri Lankan national captain Pavitra, he's an ANC graduate, Bimal, all these guys who play for Sri Lanka, they're ANC students. We encourage that. And this time we are encouraging, we're putting what is called the ANC secondary school leadership program, where students who want to play cricket, after A levels, or rugby, or they are head prefect, or they have duties, we are developing a tailor-made program. So we want to attract the best students. So there's going to be a huge initiative to attract the best students, give them scholarships.
How does the secondary program?
Well, the thing is, like you say, we lose out a lot of students who are, like, say, you're the head prefect, right? You miss out on 1 year because you have duties, right? If you're playing rugby or cricket, then you lose out on 1 year of study or whatever. So once they finish their A-levels, like for example, now they finish their A-levels, they still go to school because they're playing for the team or their band practice or whatever, So we have a specialized program for them that they can come in and it's tailor-made depending on their program. So we move away from the rules, so it can be based on their timetable, we allocate a certain. So for the sports people, they have a program in the morning.
Normally that is a foundation?
No, that's university, because they have finished their A-levels.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that will be like first year of university.
Yes.
Pretty much. That's interesting. And so you said you have 12 clubs of various kinds, 6 sports teams. How active are these?
Very active. Now I think the university level sports is getting activated. They take cricket and rugby a lot. In terms of swimming, we have a lot of swimming national level people swimming, so they participate. So we fund them participating in local tournaments as well as international tournaments. Our rugby team was in Thailand. They're going to play. I don't know what, but we do support all of those type of initiatives. All that is on our Facebook. Site, people don't find all that stuff. In terms of clubs, we have charity, we have arts, we have performing arts. We're very big on performing arts. We have a whole team of maybe 200 people in our performing arts club. So we encourage all that is to do singing, music, drama.
Have they had any large scale event?
Oh, they do. They have like 2 or 3 events every year.
Which is open to the public?
I think it's open to the public, but it's usually there for their friends and so on and so forth. The younger generation is not very, but they do, yeah. So it might be a final event or something like this. Yes.
What is needed in a student to get a scholarship to ANC, apart from sports? If the student is
3 years.
academic
Right.
How about if a student is a little above average and just can't afford?
Work scholarship. They have to work. Nothing comes free in life. There's no free lunch. That's the problem in this country. I think everything is free. When everything is free, you don't value it. You know, that's what I'm telling you. So what? You want a scholarship? Come work for us. Work for us 40 hours, we'll give you a scholarship or we'll give you part of a scholarship. That's the way. The problem is when you give something free, there's no value. When there's no value, there's no appreciation, there's no pride, there's no prestige. It's a fact. You name it, you know, if anything, you know, that's the problem. So nothing is for free. If you're exceptional, you get a scholarship. Just because you're exceptional, whether it's sports or academic. If you don't have those two, because everyone can't be exceptional, then you have to work. So you can get a work. So a lot of students work here. So they can come, they work on our departments, they take a lesser course load and they study. Right? And so that's the culture we want. We don't want freeloaders. It's not a place. Because we're not, see, our motto of Dukas is to learn to read. ANC is a small institution, right? My vision for ANC is only to have 2,000 students, right? Actually, the vision is Brown University is an Ivy League. It only has 2,000 students, but it's an Ivy League, right? So the point is that we will produce exceptional graduates, exceptional. And that's our philosophy, and that's what the next 10 years of ANC is going to be about. So we're going to attract the best. You know, so maybe they can't afford it, but we will attract them. Because those exceptional students are the ones that are going to go and do exceptional things. And this is not my idea, this is what Harvard does, this is what MIT does, right? And they give scholarships to the brightest students in the world because those students are going to be one day in the front of Time magazine or maybe rank of LMD or something. They're going to go and do something exceptional. When they go and do something exceptional, even though they had a free ride, the value of all the other ANC graduates are going to go up. Because he's going to go and say, I went to ANC, right? And I did something exceptional. So then automatically all those free-paying students, value goes up. Now, when everything is free, like in this country, right, there's nothing wrong with that, you know, people take too many things for granted. We can see that. I don't need to add to that.
Any special message to students who are looking out at options?
Well, two things, right? One is you have to do something that comes really naturally to you. A lot of people go to do where, you know, the peer pressure is a big thing. So I don't think peer pressure is a good way to go. I think we need to strengthen the counseling aspect at the high school level, so that, you know, everyone is not trying to be a doctor and a lawyer and an engineer. You know, we don't have an engineering industry or a medical industry in Sri Lanka, but we have a tourism industry, right? So we have a hospitality bachelor's program. I don't understand why people don't go into that, because if you look at all around, you know, hotels being opened or grounds being laid, right? And you know, people want to study mechanical engineering. We don't have automotive plants in Sri Lanka, right? So people should go into areas like hospitality where there's going to be for 20, 30, 40 more years. You know, we're going to go into, so you have to find a balance where there is definitely career upside. You know, we don't want, you know, accounting is good, but you know, how many accountants can you have? You know, it's just that simple, right? So, so supply and demand, right? Like it's basic economics. So if you have too many accountants, all what's going to happen is that you're not going to get paid as much because there's so many accountants. Why would an employee like me pay, right? But with hospitality, right, at a management level, very few. Very, very few. They get paid a lot of money. So you got to pick your niche sector, but also you have to be good at it. Just because a sector is doing really well, like let's say IT, right? It's a great industry to get in. But if you're really bad at it, then also no point. So you have to do something that you're really good at. Education. I don't know why people don't join education companies. It's a huge growth there. People. I think, so sectors, like education is a great sector.
So education, again, personal interest. What are the programs that you would offer to support someone who would want to get into the education sector in general, not a specific field, but more like education management and general education?
There's no degree in education. We don't offer a degree in education, but I'm just trying to say
education, maybe a master's or postgraduate.
Yeah, you do all of that, right? So we have a postgraduate program. So if you come out of that, then maybe you can become a lecturer one day down the road, and a lot of money there. You can get into marketing. Education marketing is a huge area. Shannon knows that. We are always looking for people. Education counseling, education admission. So people with psychology degrees or people who want to help people. There are a lot of those people.
Would it be a person who does educational counseling? This is again all interest from my guess. Would it be a person who has qualifications in counseling who would do that?
Yeah.
And for educational marketing, it would just be a general marketing person who goes into
who will adapt to education marketing, general marketing. How you sell a piece of Lux and how you sell a degree are two different ballgames. So you have to adapt. So, but you still need principles of marketing. So if you have something in counseling, you need principles of counseling because you are counseling someone. So you need the basic principles. Then you specialize. But education is a great sector. It's a thriving sector. So finance. Everyone wants to be an accountant, but finance, So that's the thing. So finance degrees, banking and finance degrees, huge banks, huge finance companies. Okay. Insurance. Not a single insurance degree in Sri Lanka. Not a single. How many insurance companies? So this is where education institutions are not meeting the needs of the corporate sector. And you all are probably going to hear this from a lot of people. Because all these major sectors, plantation, nothing. Right? So, because we're still stuck on this paradigm of doctors, engineers, lawyers, accountants. Right? So, IT, right? But IT, everyone thinks it's programming. It's really nerdy. A lot of kids don't want to kind of do it, right? The kids who really want to do it are really bright and good for them. But if you think of a company like ANC, medium-sized company, we need an IT manager. Every company requires an IT manager. And that guy has to have what we call an MIS degree, Management Information System. He needs to know a little bit about networking, a little bit about software, a little bit about programming, you know what I mean? So he can manage the company for us. But today you can't find those because we don't have MIS degrees. Everyone wants to be a computer engineer. Well, we don't have a computer engineering industry. We do, but it's more with coding and software and stuff like that, right? So, but if you think about it, every company needs an IT manager. Every company. But today we have just IT like executives, like technicians. Even I'm sure in your organization, there's a guy who comes, he doesn't talk too much, he fixes the computer. Those are so those are the areas that we should kind of really look at. And I'm very excited to say that we are coming up with a new degree. It's going to be a degree, first and only degree in entrepreneurship. So BBA in entrepreneurship. And I think that anyone who wants to start a business or who is in a family business, is going to want to take a look at that. Because somebody who has a family business or wants to be in business, when management is not what you want, or marketing is not what you want, or finance is not what you want, entrepreneurship. Like, what I do,
From that would be
from Northwood University. It's our business partner. And something just for the kicks, we are going to launch, not, which will be very exciting to all of you, which I think is very important. Through Monash, we're going to have a BA in politics. I think it's important. So students can do the first 2 years and go to the final 2 years to Australia, to Monash, top 50 program in the world. So they'll get a Bachelor of Arts in politics. I think it's very important. I'm going to promote this and I hope I get support from everyone. Because I think that, all these people have aspirations to be politicians, but I think maybe their second generation will take this program. Because, they're going to they're going to know what it is to be a politician, what responsibilities, how to run their campaigns, all of that. So I think, we have to be responsible in the kind of degrees that we're going to have. So actually, ANC is moving away from the traditional management, marketing, IT type of degrees. We're going into the really niche areas of degrees. We've always kind of gone into those spaces, and I think, because I think that again it's a supply and demand issue. Like how many management graduates are going to be there, how many marketing graduates are going to be there, right? So while we will have the traditional degrees, we're going to have these niche degrees that will be only available with us. I think which will add to this country's development.
Anything else you would like to add? I think we've covered quite a lot.
Yeah.